Hello and welcome to the special segment of St. Louis Blues Radio. I am Jeff Ponder, and earlier this week I was able to catch up with Doug Stolhand of the Puck Podcast, and we were able to discuss the Anaheim Ducks and St. Louis Blues and their upcoming matchup on Thursday. I hope you enjoy this special segment of St. Louis Blues Radio. I'm joined today by Doug Stolhand of the Puck Podcast. Doug considers himself an avid Ducks fan through and through, and he is proving that by continuing to watch the Ducks this season. Welcome to the show, Doug, and thanks for taking time out of your day to talk with me.
It's good to be with you, and only the diehards would admit to being a Ducks fan this season.
Hey, well, the Blues have had their times of struggles the last couple of years, so I know the feeling.
Well, it gets tough to watch games, but, you got to take the good with the bad, and this is the bad. It'll make the good all the sweeter when things finally start turning around.
That's right. I think it's starting to turn the corner here in St. Louis, so hopefully you guys aren't far behind. The Ducks do host...
I watched the game the other night. The place in St. Louis looked just fanatic, and the crowd looked fantastic, and that's very good to see, because in recent years it hasn't been the case, obviously. But it really looks like the passion for hockey is back in St. Louis, and that's great to see.
Oh, yeah, I definitely think so. I think that the fans are starting to come back. I mean, it honestly, not that it's a good thing, it probably helps that the Rams are just so hard to watch right now that people are starting to turn towards hockey. So that's a good sign for the Blues. Hopefully they can keep this up and keep the fans coming in the building. But, so to get back to the Anaheim Ducks, they do host the Minnesota Wild tonight, as we record this on Sunday, and the Kings will also visit town Tuesday night at Honda Center, and then the Ducks will continue the week heading into St. Louis on Thursday to take on the Blues. Currently, the Ducks have posted a 7-13-5 record, good for 19 points, which places them 14th in the Western Conference and last in the Pacific Division. What do you think, Doug, is the reason for the Ducks' disastrous start to this season?
Well, I think, if you look around the league and you see the teams that are doing well, the best players on those teams are doing well. And the teams that struggle are doing so because they either have a lack of talent, the best players are injured, or the best players are not performing. And in Anaheim's case, the best players are simply not performing. The top line that you've heard discussion, and there's theories, or not theories, but opinions around the league that the Ducks' top line of Bobby Ryan, Ryan Getzlaf, and Corey Perry is one of the best lines in all of hockey. Well, they are not even the best line on this team this season. They've been absolutely awful as a team, completely underachieving, and that's what led to Randy Carlyle getting fired. That's what has led to the team's struggles. If they do well, that one line, then the Ducks will have a very good chance of succeeding on any given night. If they don't, it's almost impossible for the Ducks to win because they lack the depth, especially at forward, to score enough goals to beat most teams. And Jonas Hiller has not been playing well this season, so when they do score a few goals, they still lose games. The defense has gotten injured with Lubomir Visnovsky and just not been very good, so really, the Ducks in the last month or so haven't done anything well, and that's not a good recipe to win hockey games. They have 2 wins since October 27th, and things are not going well, but it starts with that top line. If they can turn things around, then the Ducks will start winning games. If they don't, the struggles will continue.
And, there's been a lot of talks of these 3 players, the top line, in trade discussions. I know your feelings on it already. I share your sentiment. But let's go ahead and share with my fans of St. Louis Blues Radio your thoughts on these trade rumors and if we're going to see any changes with those 3 in Anaheim.
Well, obviously when the team is as bad as the Ducks were in the last month or so, the rumors start flying about changes. And it's either going to be a coaching change or a big trade. And Bob Murray, the Ducks GM, had come out many times and been very vehement that he was not going to fire Randy Carlyle. So if you take him at his word, the other option is to make a big trade. And when you talk about trade with the Ducks, there's only a certain number of players that really have value across the league. And you start with that top line, Bobby Ryan, Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry. Now, Corey Perry is the league MVP from last season. It's hard to believe the Ducks would shop him just a few months after he wins the league MVP trophy. So then you look at Bobby Ryan and Ryan Getzlaf. Of the two, Bobby Ryan is obviously younger. He's signed for a longer term. He's signed for 3 more full seasons. And he has 3 straight 30-goal seasons that he's scored without even being on the top power play unit. So he is the one that everybody's going to be calling about and asking about, and every team is going to salivate, thinking we could get Bobby Ryan for our cast-offs and trash. Now, Bob Murray says he didn't help quash anything by saying that he was listening. He was listening to any offers that were made, and there were offers made. But he decided to make a coaching change. I do think that if the team's fortunes don't change the rest of this season, especially in the next month or two, I think we will still see a big trade made. But who knows what player that is? Who knows what team that could be? There's a lot of parameters that go into making a big deal like that, obviously. So for now, nothing is imminent. But I do think that if nothing changes and the coaching change doesn't get the roster to start producing more, doesn't get the team to start winning more, I think a major trade is still very possible, though nothing will be definite until it goes down. And the rumors that start flying around are very unlikely to happen because GMs just don't work that way. They're very tight-lipped. They're very controlled with the information. And so if you start seeing something popping up on a website or a message board about a trade, that's probably not going to happen. The trades that you see actually go down in the NHL are very rarely rumored about beforehand. As you guys know with Yaroslav Halak, there was not a lot of talk beforehand that we're going to go get Yaroslav Halak or we're going to make some big trade with the Avalanche. And yet those 2 trades went down. So don't listen to the rumors. Just wait and see what actually happens and go from there.
Yeah, and you have mentioned the big coaching change that the Anaheim Ducks made. Basically, they did fire the winningest all-time coach in Anaheim, in Randy Carlyle, and replaced him with Bruce Boudreau, formerly of the Washington Capitals. What was your initial reaction to the trade, and do you think that this team will be better under Boudreau?
I was not happy about the decision to fire Randy Carlyle because I'm a Carlyle supporter. I've seen this team achieve, obviously, the ultimate success in winning the Stanley Cup under this guy, and they've made the playoffs 5 of the 6 years he was behind the bench. So for me to look at him as the reason this team is struggling just didn't jive. I mean, the guy obviously knows how to coach, obviously knows how to produce results, and to get the most out of the current roster. Again, Corey Perry was the league's MVP last season. Lubomir Visnovsky was a Norris Trophy candidate last season. Jonas Hiller was having a Vezina-type season last season before he got hurt. All these guys, Bobby Ryan has produced great things in his last 3 full seasons. So these guys are not being held back or kept from succeeding because of Randy Carlyle. In fact, he's a part of why they are as successful as they are in the NHL. So it's hard for me to believe that he just got stupid over the summer and forgot how to get this team to play well and put them in a position to succeed. What's more likely is the players, whether individually or collectively, decided that they were done playing hard for Randy Carlyle. And that's what bothers me. As a fan, you can tell when players are not giving full effort. And, of course, the coach is not telling them to go out there and half-ass it. He's pleading with them to get out there, move their feet, and give 100%, and for whatever reason, they're not doing it. So, again, do you make a change on the roster, or do you make a change at head coach? It's much easier to find another good head coach than it is to find another great player. So they decided to go out, and according to Bob Murray, the minute he heard Bruce Boudreau was unemployed, he called up the Capitals GM George McPhee to ask permission to speak with him. He was granted that, obviously, and within less than 3 days later, Bruce Boudreau was named the head coach of the Mighty Ducks, or the Anaheim Ducks, the old school Mighty Ducks. I've been a fan for a long time.
I can tell.
But it's, are they going to be more successful? Yes, because they have to be, at least for this season. But overall, I don't know that Boudreau I don't expect him to be here for 7 seasons, let me put it that way. as Randy Carlyle was. I don't see him breaking any of Carlyle's records as far as longevity, career wins, or any of that stuff. He may get this team turned around in the short term, but I don't think he's the long-term solution. But Bob Murray needed to do something to get this team turned around, and he went from a guy that is a hardliner in Randy Carlyle that is very tough on his players, and he replaced him with a player's coach that, despite the obscenities that we all saw on 24/7 last year, and he's known for, most players will tell you that Bruce Boudreau is a guy that they enjoy playing for. He's much easier on the players. He's less demanding of them as far as he's more tolerant of mistakes, as long as, and he makes the game a little bit more fun to play. And so that's what the Ducks needed in their locker room, and that's what they've got. And now we'll see if the players can do their end of the bargain and actually start putting in the work.
Mr. Boudreau has always had a high-octane offense style, and someone that may be able to thrive under that is Teemu Selanne, who is still getting it done at the ripe old age of 41. As of right now, he's leading the team in points through 25 games. My question for you, Doug, is what are they putting in his cereal and that's making him compete at such a high level?
You watch, he used to be the Finnish Flash, and that's still the nickname, but the speed is not quite what it used to be. But he's still got great speed, and he's just got a great hockey IQ as far as knowing where to be, finding the open ice, knowing where the puck's going to go on a deflection, on a rebound, second chance. So he just knows where to be. He gets that first power play time that Bobby Ryan does not get, or at least he did under Randy Carlyle. We'll see if that continues. In the first game where Boudreau was behind the bench on Friday night against the Flyers, Teemu Selanne was not on the first power play unit. Bobby Ryan was. So that may change, and his production would obviously be affected if it did. But he's just he's a smart guy that knows where to be and knows how to score. If he gets an opportunity to score, he's usually going to bury it, and he's just got still great hands, great vision, and great anticipation of the play. So he's just a special player, and it's been a thrill to watch him for the last 20 years, essentially, as he's been in the NHL. Boudreau, though, I'm curious about how he's going to coach this team. And, yes, he was known for a high-octane, run-and-gun style of offense in Washington, but I don't know if that's actually what he wants to coach or if that was a result of the roster he was given, because the reason I say that is Mike Babcock, head coach of the Detroit Red Wings, obviously you know all too well the style of hockey he plays, and it's not nearly what it was when he was the head coach of the then Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, where he played the trap and was defense first and counter-punching offense, and he relied on great goaltending and mistakes by the other team to get the team to the 2003 Stanley Cup Finals. It's a completely different system that he used with the Mighty Ducks than he's using with the Red Wings. And I think that's purely because of that was the system that worked best for the roster he was given with the Ducks, and now he's using a better system that'll work better for the Detroit Red Wings. So we'll see if Boudreau actually is going to try and force players that are great at cycling the puck, big bodies, power forwards like Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, and Bobby Ryan, to be up and down the ice, run-and-gun type guys, or is he going to use a system that is more tailored to their skills, rather than using one that is the same blueprint he used in Washington?
I think that might be the sign of a good coach, is someone who basically adapts to the type of players he's given on his roster. I think that's part of the reason why Andy Murray really didn't work out here, maybe even Davis Payne. It seemed like they were trying to run a style that wasn't working for the roster, and give someone like Ken Hitchcock credit, because he had a very defensive style. Now he's working with a younger team with a good offense, and we're starting to see the Blues actually score some goals, and they're doing a lot of puck control, which they were not doing under Davis Payne. So Bruce Boudreau might have the same situation where he's going to maybe change up his style because of what the roster he has in Anaheim and how it's so different from what he had in Washington.
Yeah, he's got some similar pieces. I know a lot of people make the connection between a guy like Cam Fowler or Lubomir Visnovsky and a guy like Mike Green, and they say, oh, well, he can do the same thing he did with them, but they're obviously different players, even though they have similar skill sets. But the one thing about like a Davis Payne as opposed to a Ken Hitchcock, if I'm a player, I have no problem with Davis Payne, and you're going to listen to him and do what he asks you to do if you're a professional player. But when Ken Hitchcock comes in, and he's won a Stanley Cup and he's had great success in the NFL, in the NHL, it's a little bit different in having a guy that has proven he knows how to succeed and win at the NHL level, as opposed to a guy that has not. And it's tough for those rookie coaches to come in and establish themselves with a certain group of players. And the Blues roster is not exactly 20 rookies. They've got some veterans on that team that they brought in for specific reasons. And I'm not saying they didn't listen to Davis Payne, but they've responded. The entire roster has responded with enthusiasm to Ken Hitchcock, and he, having had a couple years off, essentially, from being a coach and even being involved in the NHL, really gave him a chance to refresh himself and gave him new energy, whereas Bruce Boudreau, as I said, had less than 3 days between jobs. I mean, the All-Star break is last longer than that, so you wonder how much he was able to recharge the batteries and how much of a new approach he's really going to be able to take when he essentially had no break from between jobs.
Right. In the under Hitchcock, the Blues in their last 10 have been 6-2-2, and they do host the Red Wings Tuesday night, and as I had mentioned, they do host the Anaheim Ducks Thursday night. I want to go ahead and get your opinion, Doug, on David Perron, his return last night, scoring a goal against Chicago in his first shot. Did you see the goal, and did you see the play that he had throughout the whole game?
Yeah, I did see the goal, and I saw his, you could tell, just like when Sidney Crosby's return against the Islanders last month, guys that have been out for an extended period of time are so anxious. They are just champing at the bit to get back on the ice, and when they finally get cleared medically, and they finally get to take the ice, especially in front of their home crowd, they're playing at a playoff level individually in a regular season game. And you can tell the difference because they just have an extra jump in their step and an extra bit of hunger. And they also have, they're fresh because they haven't been worn down from getting hit, and they're not nicked up and banged up like other players might be. They're not nursing an injury. They're basically brand new, essentially, and going out there with fresh legs. So you can definitely tell he had an extra bit of life, and that first goal he scored just shows the great hands and patience that he had to pick his spot, go top shelf from just 3 feet away. And a beautiful goal, great moment for the St. Louis Blues, great moment for David Perron, where I'm sure there were times he questioned whether he would ever make it back into the NHL. And not only has he made it back, he's making a difference. He's helping his team score goals immediately, and that's got to be a great feeling for him. And to see him, he got hit, and he responded well, and he looked like the player we saw before he got injured. So it's great news for him individually, but also for the Blues, because it's like making a trade without having to give anybody up. You just got this guy that hasn't been on the roster all season, and you get to add him into the roster without having to give up anything. And it's a great momentum shifter for the roster and a great addition of depth and talent to a team that was already doing pretty well.
Right. Well, Doug, this concludes the interview. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your ever so spot-on analysis. Doug, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and tell our listeners how they can find your show and how they can interact with you, Eddie Garcia, and the Puck Podcast.
Well, we are at puckpodcast.com is our official website. You can get us on iTunes by searching for Puck Podcast. We're on foxsports.com's NHL page as well. You can email us at puckpodcast@aol.com, and we always encourage people to follow us on facebook.com/puckpodcast or twitter.com/puckpodcast. So plenty of ways to interact with the show. We've got over 1,300 fans that are following us on Facebook and interacting with us there. So there's great discussion from fans all over the world and of all 30 teams. So it's really like an NHL forum, fun place to catch up on videos and highlights and just discussion of the entire league. So we encourage that, and we thank you very much for your support, and thrilled that you're now a member of the NHL media along with us, and looking forward to hearing your reports on the Blues all season long.
Oh, definitely. And I'll keep them as fresh and good as possible, as I'm sure you guys do every week. Thanks for your time, Doug, and I wish the best of luck to you and the Anaheim Ducks. Well, except for Thursday night.
Yeah, I think right now the Ducks are the NHL's get-well card. You know, we have a free 2 points to anybody that comes on the ice against them. So the only problem you might have is that you are catching them after the coaching change. It was guaranteed the Blues would win if Randy Carlyle was still behind the bench the way this team was playing for him. But they might actually put up some resistance on Thursday. But we'll see if it's enough to beat a good Blues team under Ken Hitchcock.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Doug, and make sure you check out the Puck Podcast every week for Doug and Eddie's analysis of the NHL.